I'm James Lynch, and this is my stock report for UFC Perth, taking a look at the biggest winners and losers from the event. And this was an easy one for biggest stock riser on this card. Has to go to Carlos Prates, finishing Jack Della Maddalena. First stoppage loss for JDM in the UFC. First knockout loss, I think, since his pro debut. Didn't look like a minus 110 favorite. Carlos Prates looked like a dominant force in this fight, and the stats back this up. Again, I can't show highlights on here, but look at the significant strikes difference, 104 to 41. Prates coming out, a lot of really good leg kicks, basically taking JDM out of his element and was the aggressor the whole fight. And you could just see it was only a matter of time before he was going to break down JDM and get the TKO finish. Super impressive, especially with the fact that this fight's in Perth. You know, JDM, had the crowd on his side and all that. It's just a very, very, very impressive win here for Prates. And I'll say it right now. I mean, this is the type of performance that could get him a title shot. Like, he could leapfrog Ian Gary. They haven't announced that Islam Ian Gary fight yet. There's rumblings that that's going to happen in Philly. Would not shock me at all if the UFC pulls Prates out of there at the last minute and puts him there. And I know people will be like, well, Gary has a win over Prates, but this is a sport, especially in the Paramount era. It's about what have you done for me lately? And for Prates to finish JDM like this, I think everything's on the table right now. So huge win there for Prates. I didn't think he was going to be able to knock out JDM. He does. We'll talk a bit more about JDM and his future a little bit later here on the stock report, but no questions asked. Carlos Prates, biggest stock riser on this card. He is now a big force at 170 if he wasn't already. All right. Second biggest stock riser on this card. This was one where I had a bit of trouble going for number two because there's two ways you can look at this. You can look at who's in a bit better position in their division, and then you got to look at highlights and all that. And I'm going with the highlight one, and that's Quinlan Salkid, who obviously was a big favorite in this fight, minus 400. But it's just the fact that he did what he was supposed to do, which was go out there and get a first round finish. Beneil Dariush, I've talked about it before. This is a fighter who has lost a number of times early in the fight, and Salkid came out and did exactly what he was supposed to do, getting that first round finish, knocking out Dariush. This is the biggest win of his career. It was a big jump up in competition. If you look at some of the guys that he's fought in his UFC career, a bit of a weaker schedule here. Jubilee, Ashmosh, Hakparas, Malarkey was obviously, at the last short notice. But to finish Dariush is going to look very good. I still want to see how he looks against some of the sort of regular guys in the top 15. I know that kind of fits Dariush's bill, but the way Dariush is losing, I don't think we're going to be seeing much of him, much longer in the UFC with the fact he keeps getting finished like this. But to me, like when you look back on this card, this will be one of the highlights. I don't think Salkid's like anywhere close to a title shot, but at the very least, he should get in the rankings, and he should be someone that gets matched up with some of the tougher guys in the weight class, the more consistent guys. We are seeing a bit of a changing of the guard at lightweight, and I think Salkid is part of that. So huge win there for Quinlan Salkid, who gets the first round finish over Beneil Dariush. And third biggest stock riser, this is the one where I was going back and forth on. It's Steve Erceg. Now, I know Erceg didn't have as good of a fight as Quinlan Salkid did. It's just the fact that he's at flyweight, even him getting 2 wins, that's huge because the division, like we know, is a little bit wide open at the moment. If we go look at the rankings right now for flyweight, obviously we got the Tetsuro Taira and Joshua Van fight coming up next Saturday. But if we go look here at flyweight, as I'm going the wrong direction on the rankings here. So Erceg's number 12, the fact that he beats Elliott, he'll keep creeping up, but you look at it here, some of the names, obviously Pantoja will come back, so he's kind of log jamming things. Kop's right up there. But I don't know, as Erceg proved a couple of years back, you only need a couple wins to kind of break through here. So I think a win for Erceg here actually means a bit more than the win for Quinlan Salkid, but we'll see how that all shakes out. I thought Quinlan's performance was better, but Erceg gets it done. That's back-to-back wins. Again, there was a bit of a stretch here where he lost 3 in a row. That's sort of in the rearview mirror right now. Steve Erceg, big stock riser on this card, getting it done at home on this Perth card. And then I'll give a quick honorable mention. Did like the performance that Brando Pericek put on against Shamil Gaziv. I actually had Gaziv in this fight, but Pericek does look pretty legit at heavyweight, and we haven't been able to say that about a lot of fighters in the weight class here. So I'll give him an honorable mention on this card. Again, 7-1 now. We're seeing a new breed of fighters coming through the heavyweight division right now. So he's now got 3 straight wins in the UFC. Again, another division where, with him getting this win, he could be fighting, who knows who he could be fighting next. He might be getting Curtis Blades next. Obviously Blades is going to need some time off, but you know what I mean? Like, he'll get a big fight after this, I would think, after this victory here, especially taking out a guy in Gaziv who had been ranked for a while. So he'll get my honorable mention on this card. And again, 31 years old, pretty young for the weight class too. Okay, let's get to our stock droppers on this card. I did not give it away in the thumbnail, But the biggest stock dropper on this card has to be Jack Della Maddalena. And it's just for the fact that this was a guy that won the welterweight title a couple fights back against Bilal Muhammad. Kind of a surprise performance, if you remember it back then, because JDM had that huge layoff. He had the injury, goes out there, beats Bilal, gets absolutely smoked by Islam. Okay, fair enough. It's Islam. No big deal. But this fight was not competitive. And it did not look like two fighters that were, billed as minus 110 apiece going into the fight. Protes looked a lot better here. I have a lot of questions about JDM. You had the full camp. It's in your, backyard, so to speak, with it being in Perth, and you put on that type of performance. I think it just shows levels. And I'm at the point now with JDM where I don't think he's a contender anymore. I think this is the type of performance that shows him he's probably more of a gatekeeper than a contender at this point. Because again, you should be competitive with Carlos Prates, in my opinion, and it just wasn't like that. And it wasn't even a case of like JDM got knocked out in the first round. You could say, okay, he got caught. This was a case of it was just a systematic breakdown of JDM by Carlos Prates, and the stats back this up. Again, JDM 41 significant strikes. This wasn't even close as far as everything that happened. He did get 2 takedowns in the fight, but only 2 of 5 didn't really help him out too much. Again, you look at the first round there, Prates edges him out. Second round and then third round was just a total beatdown here. To me, if you're a contender, you should be having more competitive fights than this. I think JDM's really got to go back to the drawing board here and figure things out next, because I don't know where he fits. The division's moving along very quickly. We got Islam obviously as the champ. We got this new breed of like Morales, Gary. Don't forget about Shavkat. He's still out there too. You've got obviously Prates now, who's now in title contention. So JDM's got to figure it out. He's still relatively young for the division. That was another reason why I thought he might be able to pull this off. But he's got to make some adjustments here if he wants to see the next half of his career go well at 170. Tough loss there for JDM, who gets smoked in the main event. Okay, second biggest stock dropper. And again, people might disagree with me on this one, but it's just where he was before and where he is now, and that's Beneil Dariush. Now, look, he wasn't supposed to win this fight. A lot of people, including myself, thought he would get finished early in this one. He's 36. He's going to be 37 in a couple days. And the big issue here is 4 of his last 5 fights, he's been finished early too. All first round losses. That's where we're starting to talk about retirement. Not even talking about does he get another UFC fight. I'm talking about retirement. Dariush now, he has now been knocked out 7 times. It's time to hang them up. I like Dariush a lot. Really, really good interview. I wish I got to do more interviews with him over the years, but couldn't for a variety of reasons. But just, one of my favorite guys to talk to, just like a really awesome, humble guy here. But it's time. It's time. And the UFC knew what they were doing here. I talked about this when the fight was booked. They're trying to build up their new guy in Quinlan, who obviously young from Australia. They want to build him up. That's exactly what they accomplished here with Dariush losing like this. But enough's enough. I know it's only 2 losses, but we don't need to see him take a third fight. Unless he's going to fight someone outside the rankings that could maybe get him a win, and then he could ride off into the sunset, kind of like what they did with Michael Chiesa fighting Nico Price. Like, if you want to give him a send-off fight, give him like, I don't know, someone like Trey Ogden, but not Trey Ogden, like someone that's not going to like finish him in the first round. You know what I mean? Like someone outside the rankings, I think would make a lot of sense. And I know Trey has a fight coming up. I didn't mean him specifically, but I just mean someone that fits that bill. That's maybe like a veteran that's outside the rankings that would give him a good fight. Or maybe like the loser of like, Jeremy Stevens and, Bobby Green or something like that would make sense. So Dariush, tough loss there. Another stock dropper on this event. And third biggest stock dropper on this card for me has got to be Temba Garimbo. And, people will be like, well, he wasn't supposed to win. I think he was a slight underdog in this fight. But just remember where Temba Garimbo was just a couple years ago, okay? So he was a plus 185 dog. And again, he goes to a split. It's not like he looked terrible in this fight, but remember where he was at one point? This was the guy that, had the whole thing with The Rock, and he was on this nice win streak after the Nico Price fight, and now it's 3 straight losses. He might get cut here after this. 3 straight losses, got finished in one of those. Yeah, and again, he's older too, so there's no real reason for the UFC to keep him around here at 35. I think people need to realize like where he was at one point, and it was this feel good story, and now lots come out since then. Don't need to tell you about all that, but 3 straight losses, that might be the last fight there for Garimbo. So Garimbo, definitely a stock dropper on this card. 2 honorable mentions I'm going to kind of put in the same category because they're both going to get cut is Gerald Meerschaert. Saying that though, I think Malkoun's stock actually goes down. I won't even, you could put him as an honorable mention as stock dropper because like how do you not finish Gerald Meerschaert, who's been finished a handful of times? And the other one is obviously Tai Tuivasa. Like enough's enough. This is just, and again, Tuivasa was favored in this fight. How many more losses do we need? It's 7 losses now? Are we going to go for 10? Is he going to try and break BJ Penn's record? Like, we don't need to do this anymore. Tuivasa, it's not working out. And I think Sutherland was a very generous offering from the UFC as far as a fight here. But 14-10 record, I'm sorry, he shouldn't be in the UFC anymore. So Tai Tuivasa, again, we'll put him and Meerschaert in that same category of like, most likely going to get cut after this event. So yeah, those are my stock risers and stock droppers. So let me know in the comments who your 3 biggest stock risers are, who your 3 biggest stock droppers are. Would love to hear from you. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. My name is James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching. This is the Stock Report, and I'll see you next week.